Attention humanitarian and development professionals. Are you looking to take your career to the next level? Then you've come to the right place. Humanitarian Global offers self-paced online courses designed specifically for you. With our comprehensive curriculum, you'll build your capacity in the most critical areas of humanitarian and development work. Our course offerings include monitoring, evaluation, accountability and learning, water, sanitation and hygiene, disaster risk reduction and management, food security and nutrition in emergencies, procurement and supply chain management, human nutrition and dietetics, maternal, infant and young child nutrition. With Humanitarian Global, you'll have the opportunity to grow your skills and impact the lives of people in need. Visit our website to learn more about our courses and apply today.
Hi, everybody. I hope you can hear me. Someone can let me know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you very much, Diana, for confirming that. So today, I will be your speaker. My name is Marlene. I work at the Humanitarian Global Institute as a professional and also as a consultant in the field of humanitarian and development. And today we will have a brief of the kind of role that humanitarian organizations play when it comes to being able to assist different organizations in different segments, and also some of the roles that I believe most of us who are in this specific webinar participate in. That is the direct responsibility of both humanitarian and development professionals, because our work is usually interlinked with each other. So just to get to it is that a lot of people have different notations as to who a humanitarian is or what a humanitarian should do, when they should do it. One thing I have to say is that to me, I feel humanitarianism is more of a way of life as compared to being a career, because you find that most people, and some of them even who work in the corporate world, those who are humanitarians, when it comes to time of crisis, they feel like a responsibility to be there for others, to help others bring back dignity to their life. And that's why you find that humanitarianism is different. It's not only the people who work in the field, but it's also those people who sit behind closed doors and donate to those specific causes. You find that it is a collective role. And humanitarianism is more about you being able to contribute what you have or what you can do in order to help someone else's life be better. Either someone who has experienced change somewhere. For example, when we talk about disasters, this might be an earthquake, flooding, drought, you name it. Lately, there are even climate change crises. And I believe most of us understand that very well. So humanitarians promote human welfare and ideas of people. So that's how we bring about change in society. That's why we play different roles, and different people have different focus, including organizations. You find that organizations focus on different things. For example, you find that there are organizations like UNICEF and Save the Children who mostly focus on children. I had someone mention the World Health Organization. That one focuses on health and other aspects of nutrition, but now you find an example of FAO focusing on things like agriculture, and World Food Program. They focus more on being able to distribute food items. This might include both food and even supplements for the purpose of nutrition. And you find that this is how we bring about change in the normal behavioral patterns of a society. And you find that help to aid by giving money and sometimes necessities, as I mentioned. Most people are humanitarian. Even some of the people working in corporate, as I mentioned, you find that to them, they feel that the humanitarian field needs funds. So then they are working in order to be able to provide those funds to propel humanitarian actions and other developmental actions. So speaking about the necessities for those in need, what are these necessities that we are talking about? Necessities could be in form of food, could be in form of water. Sometimes it's clothing, other times it's shelter. Sometimes people in crisis need equipment. Let's talk about non-food items. Like you find that people who have been displaced, for example, internally displaced people or refugees, they require tarpaulins so that they can be able to shelter themselves from bad weather, including rain. Another thing is you find that people in crisis in most cases are hurt, and they require medical supplies so that they can be able to tend to the wounds, so that they can be able to get back to life, have first aid, and maybe be rushed to the hospital. So there is a lot of things that humanitarians are able to bring about when it comes to issues of emergencies. And as I said earlier, we're not only talking about emergencies. There are certain preconditions. For example, cases like poverty. We know that poverty deprives people from very many basic needs. People who are impoverished, you find that they are not in a position maybe to afford the food that we're talking about. They're not able to afford better shelter. They're not able to afford better education or even clothing for their loved ones and themselves and their families. So you find that all these things that humanitarians bring to the table, and a humanitarian, as I said, can be anybody. You might find that today you just wake up and you feel that you need to go to the children's home and provide them with books or provide them with sanitary towels. That is an act of humanitarianism. That is an act of being more human. And as I said earlier, is that humanitarianism is governed by values, individual values. Some people say religious values because there are certain religions that focus on brotherhood, being able to be there for people who need you the most. Sometimes it's just a belief that you're supposed to be a better human, but all these things that we provide to different communities, different people, you find that they give relief to people in unfortunate and desperate situations. For example, people who have been displaced. This might be internally displaced people or even refugees. You find that for some reason, it's an unfortunate situation. Nobody today would wake up and think that I would like to be a refugee or I would want to be an internally displaced person in my own country. So you find that that is what we refer to as unfortunate and desperate situation. This is because if they had a different reason or if they had a different capacity, they would have been able to help themselves. But due to one reason or the other, can be loss of loved ones, loss of assets, loss of property. You find that all this make their situation a little bit desperate in the fact that they need some assistance in order to get themselves back on track or get their life back on tracks. So humanitarianism at the end of the day is work where you are not looking for glory or praise. The best code of conduct and ethics for humanitarians is where humanitarians' goal is to make a difference in the world and in people's lives, and in order to make someone's life better or a community's life better than what it is during that crisis or because of certain preconditions. As I say, things like poverty, maybe you find that affect the effect of climate change, and there is issue of drought. So you find that our work is basically to ease the plight of people that have, so that they can have a little hope that tomorrow might be a better day if we continue building together, if we continue trying to rely on each other so that we can be able to help each other get their lives back on track. So speaking about humanitarianism, and right now we can base our facts on so many things, especially now that it's just I can't say it's after a pandemic because there are certain things that are still happening on that front when it comes to health. But there are certain things, especially from the beginning of this year, you find that as much as we may want humanitarian assistance to decline or people to be more self-sufficient, you find that there is still need because of population growth. More people are still being born, and there is so much that is still happening. So you find that in 2023, a record of 339 people will need assistance. So in this year that we are currently working in, you find that already at the beginning of 2022, 274 million people around the world were in need of humanitarian assistance, and that number keeps on growing. And that even reminds you how important humanitarian work is, because at the end of the day, we need to derive solutions of helping our fellow brothers and sisters. So you find that the expanding global humanitarian needs are due to reasons like high cost of living, and we are all aware of the high cost of living right now. As things change, more people need services, more people need goods, more people need different things, food, water. because we are living in a limited resource kind of world. So we have our water sources are still the ones that we found here on Earth. We haven't been able to work on maybe replenishing, and you find that the need keeps on growing as the population keeps on growing. So you find that expanding global humanitarian needs, the rising operational cost and commodity prices, high inflation rates, you find that these are some of the things that are contributing directly to the significant rise in humanitarian need requirements. So you find that more people are needing assistance, especially now with the issue of climate change. More people are becoming climate refugees, and you find that definitely they are in need of assistance. This is because due to issues of, for example, drought or flooding, those people cannot live where they used to live anymore. So you find that humanitarian negotiations lately are like the backbone of access, and you find that they help reach people in need. And that's why today we are talking about the collective responsibility of humanitarians. You find that all these people have a very significant role to play when it comes to us being able to help people who are in need, despite the increasingly difficult operating environments. Because you find that today you might find that 100 people might need assistance from drought, but that is just today. Tomorrow, you might find that that number might increase, and the number increases. So every day, with every waking hour, there is someone else who just something happened and they need assistance. Look at the example of the earthquake in Turkey. Yesterday, people's life were just okay. Then today, an earthquake happens, and over 10,000, 100,000 people need assistance. That is not something that they had prepared for yesterday. And that is where humanitarian organizations and individuals come to play, because they're the only ones who can be able to lobby for assistance to be able to help these people in crisis. So as we continue to look at that, you find that early action is also helping to reduce incidents of sexual exploitation and abuse. Why did I put this in this specific looking at humanitarian world as a glance? We find that lately the cases of gender-based violence, and I believe most of you are well aware of this, you find that these are cases that are increasing. There is the issue of human trafficking. There are so many violations when it comes to aspects of sexual exploitation and abuse. You find that there is also children trafficking, where children are forced into to be sexual workers at a very young age. These are all violations to children's rights and human rights. So you find that those are some of the things that humanitarians play a very critical role, because some humanitarian organizations are the ones that are creating shelters for these people who are sexually exploited and abused. They're still the same people who try to find assistance for those who are in need, so that they can be able to get medical help and psychological or mental health assistance. So you find that this is still work of humanitarian and development practitioners. So you find that the critical role played by both local, national, and sometimes even international actors is usually reflected in the increasing levels of leadership and participation. And that is why you find most of you are willing to learn more about how you can be better. And that is what we at Humanitarian do. Focus on understanding your need as a humanitarian and development practitioner, and being able to convert that into learning components. We develop modules, we develop projects where you can learn for. We also take time to have this webinar so that we can be able to share with you some of the importances and knowledge, so that you can be able to learn more about the fields that you're working in or the fields that you're passionate about. So you find that there is also efforts for greater accountability to people affected by crisis. And you find these have gained momentum because more people are feeling that human life deserves dignity, and we all have a role to play in making our world a better place. So you find that humanitarians are trying to ensure that there is community engagement and they're able to gather enough data from the people. So lately it has come from us imposing the kind of aid that we want on people. And lately we are trying to understand from their perspective. We go to the field and try to gather up needs. What do these people need? How can we help them build back better? What resources do they have? And how can we assist them in using those resources to build back their lives better? So all those are some of the critical aspects and issues that we as humanitarians try to focus on, trying to get the right need to the people who need it the most, so that we can be able to uphold the life with dignity, not only for ourselves, but for the people who we serve at local levels and sometimes even national levels. So um, so let me just today I'm going to focus on this 5 role of humanitarians in crisis, and this is because these are not satisfactory. This is not all the roles that humanitarians and development practitioners play, but this is just a highlight of what some of the most people who are working in the humanitarian field do. I know, especially when you look at number 4 is meeting sustainable development goals. There are 17 and they focus on different things. It might be education, gender, it might be the issue of health, might be no poverty, no hunger. You find that there is so much, but we are just going to look at these specific 5 ones, and then we are going to see how those you will even find that some of the things are related to the work that you as an individual or as an organization do. So the first thing is providing emergency assistance. And this is in most cases in the midst of crisis. You find that when the most vulnerable lack access to basic needs such as food, shelter, and healthcare, which in most cases, those are like the first major basic needs: food, shelter, and healthcare, and clothing, just the basic need. You find that humanitarian aid brings relief in times of need. And that is what I was saying, that you find that there are certain humanitarian organizations that specifically focus on emergencies. And you find that these emergencies are the reason why most of us even working in the fields that we are. So you find that help is provided based on the need, with the main goal of saving human lives, soothing human suffering, and maintaining human dignity. This is because every time there is a crisis, there are fast responders. And in most cases, fast responders, for example, in a case like an earthquake or a flood, there are those people who are specifically going in to save lives. It's immediately, it has happened, so then they don't think twice. There are people who are drowning in the floods. We need to save these people. There are people who are dying of hunger. We need to provide food to these people so that they stop dying from hunger and be able to provide nutritious food. So you see, the first main goal is to save human lives, reduce human suffering, and maintain human dignity, because lack of basic needs means that those people are more vulnerable. Another thing is rebuilding communities, and this is a role of developmental organization as compared to more humanitarian organization, because most humanitarian organizations focus on being able to save the lives, soothe the suffering or reduce the suffering, and maintain human dignity. But you find that once we have already finished sorting out the emergency, we've saved the lives, we've been able to restore human dignity, um, there is the need to build those communities or help rebuild so that they can be able to get back to their way of life. So emergency aid provides relief and comfort to victims who are unable to deal on their own with the emergency situation. This is because of reduced capacities. As I said, when someone has lost their lives, lost their love, they have lost their property, lost some of their loved ones, lost their assets, and sometimes even everything. So you find that the only thing they have is maybe themselves and a few things that they might have been able to save from the whole situation. So you find that things like food, medical aid, shelter, clothing, and all those things that are basic needs, you find that in a later stage, it might mean assistance with physical reconstruction of communities. Sometimes it is about resettlement of refugees. Sometimes it's a matter of reintegrating people back into their communities and being able to foster their growth back into the community. Another thing is educating the next generation. I know there is so much around that is an SDG and all that, but you find that things like school feeding programs are usually set up by humanitarian workers, not only to encourage children to enroll to school and even attend regularly, but you find that they also provide vital nutrients for improving their children's ability to think and learn. So if you find that we all say that education is a key for future development or sustainable development. This is because that is the only way that we are able to impact the next generation with information, skills, and tools that they can be able to use to save our planet, or something that they can be able to build better futures. So by focusing on education and family, you find that we are able to build sustainable long-term growth instead of providing temporary fix to problems. So you find by equipping the next generation with the right information, the right tools, and the right skills, this is what is going to ensure that once they grow up, they're able to build their communities, they're able to create sustainable future for them, their communities, and their loved ones. So something else is being able to meet the sustainable development goals. So you find that, as I mentioned earlier, the aim of the UN 17 Sustainable Development Goals is to create a world where no one is left behind and everyone can be able to live with dignity and opportunity to feel the collective global promise by 2030. Though there are certain drawbacks right now, especially something like the COVID-19 pandemic that was able to reverse almost a whole decade of progress, you find that it might be challenging to achieve it by 2030, or maybe a little bit overambitious, but every day is a step towards attaining the SDGs. So that means that we as humanitarian and development practitioners have to put a special focus on meeting the needs of people who have lost so much over time. This might be people in communities that are living in abstract poverty, those who have been affected by drought and other crises, and even those people who are currently being affected by climate change, because those are some of the aspects that we need to focus on. And speaking about climate change, we go to the last but not least point, adjusting to changing weather patterns. So we find that sometimes prolonged drought, erratic rainfall, and land degradation are posing challenges that have pushed people to the edge. And that's why I was talking about climate refugees. So we find that humanitarian organizations and individuals help nearly millions of people to adapt to new agricultural practices and technologies to mitigate the devastating impact of drought and to even better withstand climate change. So those are very important things to consider when thinking about the role of humanitarians in crisis. And I said, at the end of the day, we all have a role to play. And that is where we have opportunities such as volunteerism, being able to donate to causes. Sometimes it's even you as an individual, you just walk down into a different community, be able to visit a children's home or somewhere where people are in need, spend that time with them, distribute something small for them, like sanitary towels. It just be small acts of humanitarianism and kindness. So with that, I will call Diana back so that we can proceed to our Q&A segment. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Marlene, for that very incredible presentation. And I do welcome, if you have a question to ask, you'd like to ask live during the session, kindly raise your hand. We'll be able to pick your name from there and we'll be able to ask you to speak. In the meantime, I can share with you just a little bit of feedback on the same. So Kidanu does say, I can imagine working in humanitarian crisis is very exciting and very pleasing. Humanitarian problems, for instance, due to the near previous war crisis in Tigray. This is in Ethiopia. So yes, to answer that, it is very exciting, it's very rewarding, it's very pleasing. Someone else, let's look for something else. Another question that we've been able to receive. Okay, that is the one that I'm able to pinpoint at this moment. We do have a few participants who raised their hands. I will ask Christopher. Okay, Musa, yes, Musa, ask your question.
Hi.
Yes, hello, Musa.
Thank you, group of Humanitarian Development or Global. I have taken experience this webinar, and also I connecting this Humanitarian Globals. You are always gives us or gives all the work, and this topic also is very important to discuss in Humanitarian and what's Humanitarian, and we understand more importantly everything about Humanitarian. So that's my comment. In my question. Do you hear? Hello.
Yes, we do hear you loud and clear. Ask the question.
My question. The topic is always in online teaching or e-learning. Always is high cost. Why we are not afford that cost? Some people.
I believe that on the humanitarian academic team is going to maybe call you back later. Maybe you can leave your contact so that they can get in touch with you and discuss if they might be able to give you any discounts in relation to any course that you might want to apply for. But that is always something that you can discuss, and you can discuss better terms of payment. So that is something that you can share your contact on the chat with the panelists, and they will be able to get back to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Christopher, while you prepare to ask your question, we do have one from Babulo who asks, what is the long-term solution for these problems that Marlene, you've been able to highlight?
As I mentioned earlier, the best way to tackle this problem, and I say the education of the future generation, so that they can be able to have the right tools and the right skills to meet future and current needs. So the only way that we can be able to ensure is by building the next generation of humanitarians, by giving them or equipping them with the right knowledge, the right tools, and the right skills to be able to meet the current problems and also meet future problems. That is the only way that we can be able to get that done with. And also constant developmental actions, rebuilding the communities. And when we talk about rebuilding communities, it's more about also building their capacity to be able to tackle future crises. So that is the only way that we can be able to solve or sort out the humanitarian crisis issues.
Thank you so much for that. As Marlene has said, building capacities is one of the top things we can be able to do. And with that, we actually do have a training that touches on that, which is on humanitarian essentials and principles. I'll be able to touch on it a little bit later, but for now, I'll ask, there's someone who unmuted themselves to speak. Yes, Kidanu, you can unmute yourself and ask a question. You can introduce yourself and ask. Yes, welcome.
Okay, well, thank you, Diana and Marlene, for the good presentation and explanation. I have one question because I seen on the shared screen there are multi-donors we support on humanitarian support, and Humanitarian Global is doing on different capacity building. It is very interesting. But if there is any case, is Humanitarian Global as any activity extra of giving training on supporting of humanitarian in different countries in Africa? This is my question.
I will allow Anthony to answer that question.
Thank you so much, Million, for the question. I would like indeed to say that Humanitarian does offer these training. We not only do them online, We do also do them on site. We do them mostly from Nairobi. That's where we are based. We do also travel to other countries. So that means if your organization is indeed in need of this kind of a training, we can be able to have a further discussion on the same. And then we can discuss the logistics on how our team can be able to avail themselves there so that we can deliver the training from there. So the answer is yes, we do travel across different countries in Africa so that we can be able to offer the training to you.
Okay, thank you. Because I am in Ethiopia, as I shared on my in chat box, and as you see on different medias and on different either it is Facebook or others, there is humanitarian crisis in Borana, which is nearer to the Kenya. So we need different capacity within the area of disaster risk management and hygiene sanitation part. Just we will, I will communicate Diana through my email. Just thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for the question, and looking forward to a further communication with you. And thank you once again. So back to you, Diana.
Thank you so much. While the next person prepares to speak, I will ask a question on behalf of Winnet Banda, who asks, in a crisis, there are groups of people who are more vulnerable, for example, women, children, and the elderly. What should we as humanitarians do to expose these groups to more, sorry, is it vulnerabilities that you do ask? What should us as humanitarians do in order not to expose these groups to more vulnerabilities? I believe that is the question.
Thank you very much for that question. And actually, in this era where we have a very big component when it comes to diversity, equality, and inclusion, I believe that already there are manuals and conducts on how we are supposed to handle people with vulnerabilities, not only people with vulnerabilities, because when you talk about people with vulnerabilities, that is, it is very broad and very wide, but it is always important to consider specific needs, especially of people whose exposure might lead to harm or might affect their ability to meet their own basic needs or even affect the violation of human rights towards them. So there are a number of humanitarian manuals and booklets that you might get conversant with when it comes to being able to deal with people. And I believe lately they are called diversity, equality, and inclusion booklets for marginalized and also vulnerable populations. So I believe those are some of the tools that you can, and different organizations have created them. Like there is the Diversity, Equality, and Inclusion booklet by UNICEF and Save the Children. It just depends on your focus. There are certain diversity, inclusion, and equality booklets for women, for elderly persons. So all you have to do is find the focus of your work. If it deals with women, there are certain diversity, equality, and inclusion booklets for that. If you deal with children, the same. If you deal with women, if you deal with people in other marginalized components, they're all there. So there are ways that you can deal with them to avoid exposing them to further vulnerabilities.
Thank you so much. And just to add on to that, Ezekiel does refer to the do no harm principle. So thank you, Ezekiel, so much for that insightful addition. Joseph Thomas does ask, in a country where people are stranded and there is no access for any humanitarian aid, what are the possibilities of getting food and food relief?
When it comes to humanitarian work, there is nothing like impossible. That is one thing that we have realized over time, because that is what I was talking about, inclusivity. You find that all you have to do is, the reason most of the times we talk about not being able to access certain people or not being able to access certain places is because if there are human beings there, it means that it is accessible. It means that due to one reason or the other, they found themselves there in one way or the other, that we can always derive ways to get to the people who need assistance the most. And in most cases, it just requires you being able to communicate with them. So it's more about participatory solutions. And I think right now the whole world is talking about inclusivity and allowing people to participate. So the reason why we are not able to derive the right solution for certain people is by not allowing them to participate in things that concern their lives. So I believe that as humanitarians, and in most cases we work in places where there are no roads, you find that there are places that have been affected due to earthquakes. So some of the places are very hard to navigate, but as humanitarians, we always try to work through to get to the people who need assistance the most. So there is always a solution. All we have to do is sit down and derive it.
Thank you so much. And I'm still keeping track of your Q&A section as well as your chat section. And something I would like to add on to what Marlene has said is, as humanitarians, we do remain neutral. I've seen some of your questions on on some ongoing wars. So just to mention that as humanitarians, we do not pick sides. We do remain neutral in every crisis, wherever there's a need for humanitarian action, we always remain neutral. Someone who's raised their hand, Christopher, are you able to unmute yourself and speak? And okay, Hassan, yes, Hassan, Hussein Hassan.
Yes. Hello. Can you listen?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. My name is Hassan Hussein, as you saw before. I am in Somalia. I am one of the students who has already needed to start military evaluation course. This institution. Unfortunately, there's a problem outside of me, and especially someone of the friends told me for now, and to you as part of the course. So this is a chance, as I said, can we do as reduce at the start of the cost? As I think you understand.
Sorry, Hassan, I can't hear your question clearly.
As I think the connection is the problem. I said I need monetary evaluation cost. As I think you will my cost must be.
Okay, that's okay, Hassan, and thank you so much for that. Your connection is not that clear, but our team has been able to take note. So what I would encourage you to do, you can share with us your details, and then we're going to give you a call or maybe drop you an email, and then we can be able to guide you further on how you can join the monitoring and evaluation course.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So back to you, Diana.
Thank you so much. As we continue with the questions, I would also like to appreciate everyone who's been able to reach out to us via chat. Our chat section is very active. Our Q&A section is very active. I do have a question from Ahmed, who says, it's in regards to being hard to reach communities because of access. So he does mention that some of the organizations we work in are harder to reach areas through civil society organizations, but the accountability can be an issue sometimes. What is the best practice in meal evidence when it comes to engaging a partner to implement a project in remote areas where there is limited access? Or how best can we demonstrate evidence on project success, both short and mid-term results through traditional M&E systems? So Marlene, I believe as a meal expert as well, you're able to address this question.
Let's all face this when it comes to humanitarian organizations, and most of you who are practitioners here There is a certain standards that certain organizations have put for themselves that limit access to other communities. But we all know that the best way of working within a community is working through a local partner. That one is not only even just best practice when it comes to humanitarian development, implementation of projects and programs and campaigns and interventions, but it is also important when it comes to participatory meal. This is because, as I mentioned earlier, the issue of access is dependent on the ability you have to serve the community. And you cannot serve the community without working with the community. So at the end of the day, you have to talk to them, work with them. So talking about being able to get evidence of how they can be able, that is, I think that is what even limits development right now as it is, because certain organizations feel that you need 100 years experience so that we can give you funds, or you need this so that we can give you funds. But at the end of the day, that is those kind of practices are the ones that limit development, humanitarian, and the success of humanitarian actions. So talking about how best we can demonstrate evidence, you cannot demonstrate evidence if you do not give people the opportunity to contribute towards making their own lives better. So at the end of the day, thinking about engaging a partner, you don't even have to think twice, because they know more about the local community, they know more about the terrain, they know more about the norms, the culture, the attitudes. So speaking about evidence is about being able to be there in the field with the partner so that you can be able to gather them for evaluation.
Thank you so much, Marlene. I believe this brings us to the end of our Q&A bit of this presentation. I just want to mention something that Ezekiel did note in while closing on this session is we need to ensure humanity, neutrality, and impartiality. So these are some of the principles that we are supposed to cover as humanitarian practitioners, while ensuring aid and humanitarian interventions are being implemented. With that, I'd like to talk a little bit about an upcoming training on humanitarian essentials. Remember, as humanitarians, we are required to have principles that we do follow. We do have a way that we do work. So there's a way that humanitarians work. And with that, I would like to share with you an upcoming training on humanitarian essentials and principles. This will be happening at the end of May. It's a 3-day training. So from the 29th to 31st of May, it's an online training, as I have mentioned, humanitarian essentials and principles. So from these training, you'll be able to differentiate between humanitarian principles. This is on what was mentioned in terms of impartiality, independence, humanity, neutrality. We'll be able to discuss more on that. We'll be able to touch a little bit more on humanitarian standards, the core humanitarian standards, which all global humanitarian organizations do follow. We'll be able to talk about the different sectors in the humanitarian field, as well as how they work. And we'll be able also to touch on resource management, resource mobilization. We'll be able to touch on the mechanisms that we do follow when it comes to CHS. As I've mentioned, we'll be able to see how we can be able to manage people, not just in the office, but as well as in the field. So to register for this course, I want to mention that the deadline for registration is on the 22nd of May, 2023. And to register for this course, you simply come on our page, the website that we have been sharing with you in the chat section. So simply come to the page and click on register. When you click on register, you'll be taken to a page with a form, and you'll be requested to fill out this form. And once you fill it out, our team will be in contact with you, and we'll be able to guide you through completing your registration and being onboarded for this particular course. This is a, sorry, not course, but training. This is a 3-day training, online training, and it's really important for us humanitarian practitioners to be able to get to understand more about humanitarian principles or essentials. This course is not only just for those who are already humanitarian practitioners, but even those who'd like to advance their career, those who would like to get a foothold in the humanitarian development and aid sectors. So this is not an advanced training. It's an intermediate training where you get to learn, to get to have an introduction into humanitarian essentials and principles, and then you get to learn more about it, you get a more in-depth understanding about what it takes to be a humanitarian. So I really do encourage you to register for this course. In case you're not able to register for it right now, you can also reach out to our team, and we will be able to include your name in the list of those who will be partaking this course, and we'll be able to complete your registration just before the registration deadline. I think with that, I would like to now appreciate everyone who's attended this webinar for today, especially our expert, Marlene. Thank you so much for taking time to teach us more about humanitarians and the work that humanitarians do, as well as the collective responsibility of humanitarians in complex crises. I would like to also appreciate our team here at Humanitarian Global. Thank you so much for facilitating this webinar. And most importantly, I would like to appreciate everyone who was able to attend this 1-hour webinar. Thank you for taking time to chat with us. Thank you for taking time to listen to us. And thank you even for taking time to ask questions, those who've been able to ask questions, be it via Q&A, be it via chat, or be it via live. And with that, I bid you farewell for now until next time. Goodbye.
86% of organizations value professionals that upskill to advance their careers. It's never too late. Enroll for a self-paced online course today and get to enjoy a 10% discount. Our courses are monitoring, evaluation, accountability and learning, water, sanitation and hygiene, disaster risk reduction and management, food security and nutrition in emergencies, procurement and supply chain management, human nutrition and dietetics, maternal and infant young child nutrition,